everybody, and welcome to the Wench Bench, where friends sit and talk about fabulous fictional females and how their stories have influenced us throughout our lives. My name is Allison.
My name is Fonda.
And today, Fonda is going to be talking about Lady Chirp from A Court of Fey and Flowers, a Dimension 20 show.
Yes!
Yay.
I'm not going to dive into a lot of it because it's a very good series. I would really love anyone to watch it or listen to it. And this is me hinting at Allison to that should be the next one.
I know. I'm working on it. I was catching up on a different podcast.
I know. Life is short and sweet, and you got to do what you got to do when you want to do it. But I'm going to talk about some general information about A Court of Fey and Flowers, and then I'd like to dive into Lady Chirp. Mm-hmm. As Allison said, it is a Dimension 20 season. Specifically, it's the 14th season of Dimension 20, which is a TTRPG show on Dropout, for anyone that's not familiar. In this season, players take on the roles of characters in a Fey fantastical setting as they explore the world of the Feywild, encountering magical creatures, unraveling mysteries, gossip, drama, and engaging in thrilling adventures while navigating the complex navigating the complex politics and conflicts that comes with Fey courts.
Nice.
The genre is very Austen-esque period drama within a Fey setting. And it's about a 10-episode series, and Abria Iyengar is the game master for the season. In the season, some of the things Abria employed for different game mechanics were homebrew things tied with D&D 5e mechanics that were more homebrew, but to include the Good Society system.
I love the Good Society system.
Yeah, which is very much so how they do this so well, because they're still for anyone that's more familiar with D&D, that will still pop up with the introduction of hey, here's how we're including the Good Society system for this type of game.
Yes.
It's very fun.
Oh my God.
It's very fun, Allison. Very fun. It's very again, a good way to include two systems to have it get the vibe you want for something. If one system doesn't do it for you and you're oh, whatever, and you try to homebrew something else, it's well, you can take from other source material. And I think she does a really good job at it. So shout out to Abria. But I'm talking about Lady Chirp Featherfowl, who was made and played by Emily Axford, who's wonderful. Emily Axford is a very seasoned TTRPG player, not just in Dimension 20, but on various other actual play shows and podcasts, such as Not Another D&D Podcast, and she was recently on Critical Role in Campaign 3. She's very good, very fun. I love her so much. She's funny, she's witty, she knows the games she's playing, which makes it so she does really cool stuff. And that shows up a lot with Lady Chirp. She sort of made Lady Chirp Featherfowl, not sort of, she did make Lady Chirp Featherfowl alongside Lou Wilson's character named Lord Squawk Aravis. They're cousins.
Nice.
It's great. It's the best. They're pretty much a package deal. They're great. They're fucking great. They're the highlight of the whole season for me. I'm sorry to everybody else, but they're so good. They're kind of coined as the party people in the show. The reason they're called the party people is because when the show starts, it's alluded to that this is a new bloom, and a bloom is this big giant sort of get together political event party thing for all the Fey courts. And in the previous blooms, the twins just fucked everything up. They had ragers. They didn't give a shit. And so everyone knows them for being kind of wild and bonkers and crazy and party people.
Nice.
And they go into this one being we can't. We can't. And it's super funny for their own reasons why.
Lou Wilson is also an incredible.
Oh my God, I know. He's
D&D player.
The two of them bouncing off of each other. Mwah. Mwah. I
Lou
love
Wilson
it.
is one of those people who knows how to commit to the bit.
Yes. Yes. He knows his assignments and he does them. But they're both from a house, not a court, which is very specific. The reason that it's important is because it kind of separates Lady Chirp and her cousin. a little bit from the other people that are a part of courts or don't have courts. Like, it's kind of like a good thing to know. Lady Chirp and her cousin, the patriarch of their family, which is like House of the Wings, they often talk about their grandfather, who is alive and not dead. And it's a whole bit because he lives in the skies. So they're often pointing to, oh, grandfather, as if he's dead. And everyone's like questioning it, but he's not. He's very much alive.
He just lives in the sky.
Pretty much. And their grandfather invented birds.
Oh my God.
Invented birds. So due to like Squawk and Chirp's sort of like, they're referred to collectively as the Lords of the Wing. They do like a lot of misdeeds. They tie to certain things about birds being kind of like, it's just a huge, very fun bit, and I like it a lot. But their grandfather wants them to find political matches in this season to help like with their house and a whole bunch of other stuff. They got to find good political matches. And they're constantly talked about that, like, he doesn't want his grandchildren to go to the material plane. And like there's big reasons for why, and the material plane is kind of an interesting connecting point for Lady Chirp. I don't want to say why, but like there's a reason that like the material plane is a faux pas, and then I feel like there's kind of like reasons why Lady Chirp, thinking back on it as like a viewer, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I would have picked off of like certain interactions or reactions she did if I had known XYZ information earlier on in the show. So like, I think anyone that's going to watch it, pay attention if you give a shit. Yeah. It's hard because everybody at the table is amazing. But if you want to like know some cool stuff about Lady Chirp, like it'd be like pay attention to kind of like how Emily is portraying her character throughout the show, because she does such a good job. Anyways, he also gets angry when they make bird puns, and they make bird puns a lot. At one point, he threatens to eat them, which they kind of panic about because they know other people in their family got eaten, because that's bird things will eat people. Yeah. It's very funny. It's super good. Lady Chirp herself, just sort of like to describe the character a teeny bit before going too much into it. They all look humanoid for the most part. Some a little bit more like animalistic than others in the show, especially because one is like a hobgoblin, but you know, they still got like 2 arms and 2 legs. Lady Chirp and her cousin are both very humanoid with some like bird features. So Lady Chirp has peacock inspired elements to her with like colors, clothing, some feathers, different like visual motifs is very much like her aesthetic. Lots of resplendent colors and like ornate designs and accessories on her. And she is a very powerful spellcaster, being that of a wizard.
Ooh.
Yes, very fun. I love seeing Emily play a spellcaster. She does such a good job. Yes. So I would love to talk about like her personalities and like quirks, because I think they're what makes her shine a lot as a character. Yeah, I love it so much. So Lady Chirp Featherfowl's character is like a delightful blend, I'm gonna say, of like elegance, wisdom, and whimsy. Her majestic peacock persona is matched by like her enchanting demeanor, because everyone's like, oh, they're hot, like the cousins are, they're hot, but they're party people and like all these other things. And they kind of only knew them as like that one element. But in this new bloom, we get to see sort of like the elegance and the wisdom and like the cunning and the intellect. Yeah. Which is very much so like shows her gracious and unpredictable side at the same time. Because beneath all that like regal exterior that she's showing off this season, she possesses a sense of like curiosity, a mischievous spark, like making her dynamic and very captivating in the campaign. Like she'll do certain things where like at first you're kind of like, what? And then like later on I'm like, oh, you were playing that person. Or like, I didn't know why you did that until now, and you're bringing up the use of the spell this time around. Like there's a lot of interesting things about it. Yeah. Especially because she kind of talks like, cousin, huh? Like she talks like, oh, all the time, like kind of like Arian up here. And it's like very like unassuming, which is very fun. I think as like watchers and listeners, depending on how you partake in certain Dimension 20 show medium, We often get to see more of the playful and mischievous part of Lady Chirp. That's most so because it's like reserved to private scenes or just scenes where it's only her and Squawk. When she's like with other people, she's very much like reserved and trying to like find a good match and play the political game. But I really love like the cutting of that with Lou and Emily bouncing off of each other, so we can see Lady Chirp be kind of a fun goofball fae person. It's so cool. Like, she plays definitely more of the like political games in front of everybody, which I think is very interesting because all of these people that only assumed they were party people, I think are very much so like, oh, like, it's fine, they're just the cousins, like, they're just here to have fun or whatever. That like they get away with some good political shit because of their past, like, what's the word I'm looking for, their past indiscretions, but like I hate that I forgot the word and I didn't even write it down.
Not stereotypes.
Fuck, I don't know. They did something. It made people be like, oh, they're one note. And they fucked that all up by being like, I'm multifaceted. And I think, like, she does such a good job. But not only that, I think what I extra liked about this character that Emily played, Lady Chirp Featherfowl, is she's a good listener. Like, you can tell that she's like not only trying to play the political game and pick up of things of like where she'd be like, oh, I'm gonna ask about this later, or I'm gonna like do something about this information you're telling me, but she's such a good listener for the fact that, like, at the table, not only is Emily as a player helping move things along, as a character, Lady Chirp is also unknowingly helping moving things along because she's finding pieces of information, and she's smart enough, being a wizard, to be like, I know this is important. I might not yet know why it's important, but this feels very important. So it kind of like, it melds well together with sort of like the player knowledge and the character knowledge combining in a nice way that I think Emily does such a good job at. Because if anyone that ever played any kind of TTRPG game knows, metagaming can be easy to do, but also hard to manage, especially when you want to help a story. And so, like, I feel like Emily's character is very much so, like, I'm going to assist the DM, but I really, like, enjoyed that about her. But also, she's just so fucking funny with her puns. She does the puns way more than like Lord Squawk does. And we also find out through, like, I mean, it's the Feywild. Everyone's sexuality is very fluid. And very, like, wherever they want it to be. But Lady Chirp is very, like, kind of like unassuming in her sexuality. Like, she knows she's hot. And she's like, oh, like, you know, we could have a marriage of convenience. And, like, she knows certain things. But also, there's just, like, she gets really intrigued about certain, like, goblins. Like, they talk about salt goblins. And she's like, oh, my God, if I knew they existed, I think I would be, like, fascinated and just horny. And it's just, like, really funny because it's so sort of like out of left field, and not in like a weird way, but more so in like an intriguing, like, there's a lot to her as a character, and I'm sad we don't get to focus on her all the time in the show. But there's enough that comes up that I'm still just like, oh, she's fun. She's just so fun. She's my favorite. And I would love to, like, dive more into her personal, in regards to, like, good society. They all have a secret going into the game. I don't want to tell you her secret because it's so fucking fun to find out. But it's the best bit of the show. It's the best bit. Not only is, like, the person she's interacting with in the bit freaking the fuck out, everyone at the table is just like watching their faces, and, like, Brandon Lee Mulligan's at the table, and he's just like, what? Just, like, all these things. Like, she does such a good job at, like, getting these dramatic and fun moments that I love. I just love her character. I love her character. character.
Yes.
So much. Her
Yeah.
personality is like, I'm here for it.
Yeah, when a player can really like, because I love putting things like secrets and stuff like that into my games as well, giving characters something to kind of hide while also building experiences with the other people. And when you have a player who can like roll with that secret and are able to keep it and then utilize it in like the right ways at the right moments to help make that moment that much more impactful, it's so fun.
It's so good. It's so good. But she's like a very fun character, and like I love her so much. I would talk more about Lord Erebus because of it, but I also feel like in doing so, I would be taking away some very fun things for you as an audience, whether you're going to listen or just watch it. I think you should kind of like experience that for the first time. Moving away, but still related to, I want to talk about Emily Axford's like wonderful improv skills, because that's a huge part, I think, of why Lady Chirp is so fun for me and why I find her interesting. So anyone that doesn't know, Emily Axford is a seasoned performer and I think like I'm going to call her an improvisational actor. I don't know if that's you know.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? I'm going for it. I'm living my truth and saying that's a title.
That's a thing.
But she breathes life into a lot of characters. Like, I honestly would just love to talk about Emily Axford's role with making cool characters in the shows, from like in NADPOD when you get to meet Moonshine, in the other Dimension 20 show, Never After, where you get to meet her play Ilfa, who's this like snotty little like werewolf kind of girl. Like, she makes some very fun characters. And I think the ones that definitely shine the most are the ones where she's not necessarily taking a backseat because of the character and like being like maybe reserved or shy. It's when she has characters that are very like witty and like love to like play off of someone else really well.
Yes.
And I think Lady Chirp Featherfowl like shows this a lot with astonishing ease out of Emily Axford. Her mastery of improv allows her to effortlessly embody the whimsical and ever-changing nature of the Feywild. Like, anytime Abria does something, you can tell Emily's like, yes, let me saddle up and throw away these to-do lists that I just made. I'm ready for this new thing. Yeah. Like, it's so fun to just see her, like, go with the yes and so much in this show, bringing out like the quirks and nuances that make Lady Chirp such a compelling and memorable character. And she's good at doing the improv with other people. Because I think there's, in the show, there's 3 players I myself am not familiar with, but I know they've been in like an improv scene, or they're familiar with like the D&D world, but maybe this is the first time their face is being attached to like a TTRPG show. And she does such a good job at improvising and yes-anding to highlight them. That makes Lady Chirp seem really intriguing to me. Which I also think is why the other players find her intriguing too, because they're also just like, what's up with that? Like, what the fuck's up with this? You know, like, is she just a party person? Like, what's going on? Like, all these things. It's very fun. And more so, I think it makes the story more compelling when you have someone that's very good at improv, being able to be like, I don't give a shit about maybe the plans I did have. Right now, this moment seems fun or important, and I'm just going to like go with it instead of shutting something down to like ignore it. And I really like that about Lady Chirp. Is not only does it seem like Emily's doing it, it does seem like Lady Chirp is also doing it, because she's kind of like a little bit of a trickster. She's like, oh yes, like who gives a fuck about what I just thought of? Yeah, let's do your plan, because that sounds wild. It's like so fun, but not in like a roguish trickster way that's overdone a lot in like TTRPG games. It's fun to see a trickstery kind of like spellcaster wizard. Yeah. Because I don't think I see that much.
No. It's always fun seeing people play with like flouting stereotypes kind of thing. Yes. Right? Like, it's always interesting, especially when in a game like Dungeons and Dragons, the classes are so easy to stereotype. It's so easy to slip into those stereotypes, and to have somebody be like, no, like, I'm going to take this wizard who's usually, like, you think wizard, you think, like, kind of probably like Gandalf, or you think somebody like super smart, like
Hermione Granger,
bookish, right? Like Hermione Granger, like very, I mean, Gandalf had sort of like an impish nature to him as well.
Yeah.
A little bit of a like twinkle in his eye. But yeah, you get like a lot more, I think, people who are kind of like stuffier, and when in reality, like, having a super intelligent character could be really fun, and you could do a lot with that.
Yeah, like Loki type vibes, right? Like Loki's very smart and cunning. Thus the good nature of being a trickster and having a charisma. So I really love that. And I just genuinely think Emily, come at me if you want to come at me. I'm saying this statement. Emily Axford is one of the best players in actual play and in general. Not only does she know the game, how to be creative with its rules and limits, but also how to stretch them to make them more fluid for it. Like, but she's a very active listener as a player, which is a skill I can only imagine is like super important as an improv actor as well. So it's a skill she probably uses all the time, which is why she's so fucking good at it. And like needing to actively listen and play off of moments or information other people are giving you is such a joy. Seeing her in games do, and like she is amazing. I bet you there's other people out there in the world that you could be like, well, what about this person? Listen, I only take in so much media in my life. I'm never going to listen to every single TTRPG thing that ever existed.
So many.
But Emily Axford is the best. There's a reason why Brennan Lee Mulligan says she is a player sent from hell to kill him. Because she's so good.
Yeah. And
creative. And like, so fucking funny. Emily Axford's so funny. And I just, any character she makes, I think, is an extension of a lot of the skills that she has. So like seeing her play wizards, I think is amazing because Emily's really smart with her like combat creative spell usage.
Yeah.
So smart. Like she does things constantly, whether it's NADPOD, Dimension 20, or like in the latest season of Critical Role, where I'm like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
I never would have thought I could try that.
She just like breaks it in a way that's like creative and interesting and still like fun. Because like there are people who go in and like intentionally break the game just to like quote unquote win D&D.
Yeah.
Whereas you can see how the way that she goes about it is in like it's almost like a personal challenge for her to find creative ways to twist what it means to be like a druid or a wizard. Like new creative fun ways to play this game, because it is so easy to get stuck in a rut and to just be like, oh, this is the only way that you can use this spell. And it's like, what if we use the spell this way? Or like, what if we like do this? Like, does this apply? And yeah, like I strive to be a DM who could roll with somebody as chaotic as Emily Axford.
Oh my God.
Because I love letting people just do that. Like, just let people have fun.
Just
right?
try.
Like try it. It's like, it might come back and bite me in the ass, but like, if there's anybody who's gonna fuck you over, it is Emily Axford.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
There's been like, I think in every season she's ever been in on Dimension 20, she's done one or two things where you could just see Brennan be like, did you just fucking come up with a way to do this without spending this spell slot or this kind of component thing? Yeah. And she's like, yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, I did. And she's so proud of it. And that's another thing, is I love seeing Emily feel very proud of like doing the fun thing and having it work, and other people like interacting with it is very enjoyable. And I'm just, I have words and it's just going to come back in circles all the time of me saying Emily Axford is great. And I want to flip that to the less of the improv thing, more of like Emily Axford can hit a lot of deep notes in her characters. Like, I don't know if anyone has watched A Crown of Candy, It's probably the most like intense season they have of like a lot of themes that are touched on. It's also the hardest because it's the only one where Brennan right off the bat was like, you have to make a backup character because like it's going to be hard and challenging in order to do the themes he wanted to do. And I've noticed the most, and especially with Lady Chirp, she touches on the portrayal of like depth and vulnerability really well without taking anything away from other characters in a scene, and not just making it about Lady Chirp. Through her nuanced performance, Axford reveals Lady Chirp's vulnerability and complexity, painting a multifaceted picture of Lady Chirp. Not like immediately. We already know she's multifaceted because she's a party bird and loves to get down and dirty and misses having a lot of sexual escapades and multiple sex, like a lot of things. But we see her ability to seamlessly switch between these lighthearted banter moments that she has with like an introspection and depth and relatability to, again, Lady Chirp, but a lot of other characters that she does, I think, which makes her more than just this like whimsical fairy in a fantasy setting. Because in the show, you find out what her secret is, and you find out certain things that like she cares so much about that she's not going to have anyone fuck with that. And seeing like the vulnerability of like at one point the fear of having it get taken away from her, and she just like, she's very good at portraying, I think, characters that she's never been in the actual shoes of, but sinking into what has it been like for me to feel vulnerable? How can I have that match this vulnerability? I will never experience myself in real life, but my character is right now, I think is what makes Lady Chirp feel very three-dimensional in her presence, and not like a one or two note kind of character. And I just, please go watch it. Please go watch it. I know that Dropout will let you share passwords. If you know anybody with a Dropout, I'm already sharing mine too much, so I can't offer it to you, dear listeners. But if you know anybody with a Dropout account, you should ask them.
I need to catch up on the drag queen one that's out right now.
Yeah, I'm waiting till it's all out until I watch it. But just go watch. It's so good. Like all of them are so good, and I think you'll really find, again, so many good characters that Emily Axford does. And I would love to talk about them all, but I'm talking about Lady Chirp because she was the one that felt like the most intriguing to me in this whimsical political setting that I haven't seen before, really. Again, with kind of like Austen-esque genre themes and like all this other stuff. And like, it's really good. It's really good. It's really good. It's really good. And I feel like I'm going to re-toot all my horns again. But, what did I write? I just noticed
what
that
are my words?
What am I wording? Just to kind of like get into me ending off why Lady Chirp is very important for the campaign too. She plays a significant role in kind of like shaping the narrative of A Court of Fane Flowers. Not only is she, I mean, everyone at the table is influential in some shape or form within this political game, but she's part of like the Lords of the Wings, and like her and her cousin kind of have like certain political sways because they're not in a court, they're in a house, so they have like certain freedoms, which is really cool to see. Axford skillfully navigates Lady Chirp's interactions with other characters by like adding more intrigue, adding more drama, helping the plot unfold in like weird creative ways. And in general, each player that like has power and influence sort of like view Lady Chirp in a way as like someone was like, you're like a mom to me, and Lady Chirp is like, how dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you insue that I'm a mother? Like certain things that are quite funny, but like people kind of view her as being like very smart within the political games, but also so unassuming that I think it makes her a big powerhouse. And like, I just like how great she is, and I also like how terrified she is about her grandfather at the same time. Just like certain things, it's like, oh fuck, like whenever their grandfather like surprises them, they panic. There's like a mini panic happening, and so it's kind of fun to see like her be this like powerful player in the game, but also a powerful force for the plot, but then like also panics when plot happens. It's like really nice to see. And I just like, in conclusion, if this was an essay, Lady Chirp Featherfowl, the peacock wizard, is a mesmerizing character in Dimension 20's A Court of Fey and Flowers. Emily, I don't know why I'm talking in a weird voice. Emily Axford's exceptional improv skill, combined with her ability, I'm going back to it, infuse depth and vulnerability into the character that make Lady Chirp an unforgettable and beloved figure in the campaign, and anyone watching or listening should be enchanted. Again, should. If you aren't, I have to question everything about you. Because her magical abilities, whimsical demeanor, and surprising twists that she brings to this enthralling adventure in an enchanting world of the Fae Courts is really, really cool. And I think she's great. And I have no other notes because I don't want to beat a dead horse, and I don't want to tell you the plot of the story because
was there like
good.
a moment or like a scene where you were just like, yes, like this is it. I love her and she's amazing.
It was when she came. So they always summon birds to do certain things.
That makes sense.
Yes,
thematically.
But at one point, she chooses not to fly and summons a bunch of emus.
Oh my god.
Who can't really fly, right?
No.
Like, they can't really fly. She summons a bunch of emus to kind of sit on, and then summons a bunch of other birds to, like, help the emus fly in, like, a weird chariot sort of situation. And that's how she enters the bloom, while her cousin's doing a very also interesting thing. It's just, like, that happened, and I was like, we're the first episode in, and I'm loving you so much. But, like, that was, like, that was, like, the moment where I'm like, you're going to be fun. She was going to be fun. And then I think a moment that made me be like, oh, you're deep. you got shit going on, was sort of when she had this, like, really vulnerable moment with Lou Wilson playing her cousin that I was very... It had some, like, interesting plot stuff, so I don't want to, like, give too much away. Yeah. But it was very interesting and deep because it was very much so, like, sort of the thing of, like, hey, together, like, I'm never going to throw you under the bus. Yeah. Like, there's all these things of, like, how they'll fuck with everybody else if they have to, but, like, the two of them are going to ride or die. Yeah. Felt very deep to me. And, like, it was like, vulnerable and nice to see. And I think, like, in any show or game, everyone wants, like, the one person who's always going to be in their court or corner, so to speak. And she's really funny. Aww. She's really funny, and I really like her. And she's hilarious. And she to me, she wins the game. Because, like, I don't know, you're probably familiar with Good Society.
Yes. Yeah.
But, like, one of the things that they introduce is, like, certain, like, points you can get depending on, like, how you're perceived in society. Like, if you get to a certain... I don't know if it's 1-for-1 from what Abria did to Good Society, but they basically had, like, these different colored gems, and, like, you would move up as you're doing well, and if you reach the very top tier, you would reset and get sort of like a title or something with you. So they had that. She never failed at that political game. Not once did Lady Chirp fall below and lose anything. She got 2.
Because it's hard.
She got 2 titles.
Yeah. Good Society is a fascinating structure.
It seems like it to me.
I'm really curious to see how Abria transitions it, because it's designed to be a DM-less game. So there shouldn't be anybody technically running the game. Like, everybody, because everybody plays somebody else's NPC.
No,
you play the game
Abria's
by
playing
itself.
all the NPCs.
But because obviously there is a dungeon master or a game master, so that doesn't really like necessarily work that way. But yeah, you are given a thing that you are trying to do, and then you are given like different like social status stuff, and then you do get more rewards. So it's like, oh, like I'm halfway to this thing, and so now I have more renown, so like I can talk to people more. Or like people will give me more stuff, and then if you go lower, like worse things start happening.
Yeah.
And it's a super fun, like well crafted game. It's relatively easy to like pick up and play. It's like there's like, did they include like the letter writing
Yes.
parts? Oh,
Yes.
that's like my favorite. There's like a letter writing section where like everybody has to write a letter to somebody else, and then there's like rumors where you can start rumors, and
that's
like,
in there too.
I love it. I love it so much.
It's so fun. It's so fun. I love the rumors that Emily as Lady Chirp does. Again, they're just very, her and her cousin, the Lords of the Wings, are so fucking great. They're powerhouses.
Having an ally in like a good society-esque game would be super nice, because in order to keep rumors around in the actual game, you have to continue them. So like rumors can die and be forgotten, but then like somebody can also use the rumors against somebody for like, it's such a well-planned game. I love it so much.
Abria does a good job at making it stay, and it's kind of like I think, as someone who's watched a lot of other shows, it can feel a little slower because of those upkeep things, but it also makes it a lot more rewarding later when certain stuff is like happening because of all their efforts.
Yes, it's definitely more of a it is more of a role play character exploration game, and not really necessarily about combat. It's more of like a character building. It's definitely like you are like the rules describe it as you are writing a book, and you are writing a book together.
It's very fun. If there's a little NPC that I could plop in as like a bonus, Wovey.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything else. You are all going to fall in love with Wovey as an NPC.
Oh my gosh.
She is amazing. And I wish, my only gripe is I really wish Lady Chirp and Wovey had more scenes together, because I truly think they would have been good friends. But
Amazing.
Wovey had other things. Other people had other things for Wovey. So it's fine, but still, it's very good. It's very good. The whole show. Again, it's 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Kind of longish, but it's a good ride. It's very fun, very dramatic. All the players are kind of like dressing up. It's very cool seeing like the more like role play freedom part of it. And again, I think Emily just shines so much, and therefore Lady Chirp is a pleasure. And that's what I'm excited about right now.
Nice.
What are you excited about?
So I'm gonna do two things because we have a little bit of time, but they're both quite similar. So the first thing, both are more tabletop role play, actual play podcasts. Anyway.
Oh.
So the first one is the one that I'm catching up on before I start another season of any of the Dimension 20. It's called Dungeons and Daddies. I suggest it to anybody. It is some of the funniest D&D that I've ever listened to, and they make a joke a lot because they're like, Dungeons and Daddies, not a BDSM podcast is how they classify it. And then in a couple of the episodes they joke, they're like, we're barely a D&D podcast, because they do not like follow like any rules. There's so many times where they're just like, I didn't know sneak attack was a thing. Like they're like, I don't know what the fuck they're playing, but it is not D&D. It's basically just four friends getting together and just like making an absolute nightmare for the DM, because it's about four normal modern day fathers who end up trapped in the Forgotten Realms having to save their sons. At the beginning, there's like a mechanic that they put in where if they'd say dad jokes, they take like damage. But it was like getting like to be too much, and like a bunch of other shit happens, and there's just so many shitty dad jokes. There's like the one girl player who's in it is like Beth May is her name, and she plays, her first character is called Ron Stampler, and he's like a stepdad. And at one point she was like, they were making fun of her because she has like a dad voice, and she's like, I'm doing such a good fucking job at this, like I bet you nobody even realizes that I'm a girl. And her voice is very much a girl making a man's voice. but she's so fucking confident.
I love it.
In that character voice, and I was like, I love it.
That's nice. You said first character?
Her first character. So there's the second season, which I'm currently catching up on.
Got it. I was worried you were going to say the dad dies.
No, where they are the grandchildren
That's funny.
of their first characters.
Oh,
and so,
fun.
So it's still kind of in the same world.
Fun.
Things are still continuing. All the dads are like ridiculous stereotypes of fathers, and they're all horrible, horrible fathers.
Oh my God.
They're not good dads.
Oh my God.
And the whole concept is like you need to create like daddy magic, and so they're like learning to become better fathers.
Okay.
And sometimes things happen and you're just like, oh my God. And there's like, they had like at one point they went on a whole tangent about like how one guy like takes his pants all the way off to go to the bathroom because he's like there's nothing worse than trying to like go number 2 and having your ankles restricted by your pants. And so those are the kind of buck wild tangents that happen where they're just like they're making shitty dad jokes and just the most ridiculous fucking nonsense happens. And sometimes I have to pause the podcast to just recoup and like laugh and just like, did that actually just happen? And again, I strive to be a DM who could roll with like that kind of chaos. It's like, oh well, like I want to do this, like this is what I want to have happen. And they do so many crazy things happen, and it's just such a fun new twist on a classic game. And yeah, I would suggest it to anybody, Dungeons and Daddies. It's so fucking funny. And then the other podcast is kind of like a self-plug too. I just recently finished recording as a guest on a podcast called Double D20s.
Oh, yes.
And their first season is completely out on podcasts, and they have begun releasing the second season. I believe my first character that I played with them is going to be in the third season. And then I think I'm in like the 6th season or the 5th season. The first season that I'm in, I play a changeling bard in like an Old West setting. And then in the second season, I play a like a tiefling warlock who goes to college. It's like Greek Week college themed, and it's chaos. It's fun. And their kind of whole thing is finding new ways to play D&D, finding new ways to have these like role play systems allow you to tell different stories. And I think that's so fun. I think their first season is about like a band who are like touring and getting back together after having broken up. And so just like new ways to use an old system and find creative ways to have it tell the kind of stories that you as a DM or you as a bunch of players want to actually play. And I think it's really creative, and I really enjoyed being on it. And it's an absolute riot. And I think more people should go listen to it.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah.
Get on these 2 podcasts.
Get on these 2 podcasts.
And also watch Dropout.
Go
find Dimension 20. Find a friend that owns a Dropout subscription and can give you their password.
You can find us wherever podcasts can be found. Please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at wenchbenchpod. And if you want to reach out, you can send us an email at wenchbenchpod@gmail.com. All of the art for the Wenchbench was designed by the wonderful Tessa Joyce Reekin. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram at Werevile. Thanks for listening, and talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice.